Hello guys, and it is that panda guy, and I'm here again with another video. And I'm sorry I haven't posted for 4 days, but family stuff did kind of prevent me from doing that. And today we're going to be going through the Pompeii footage. This is of course the shortened version. I will upload a 1-hour version around the same time. It should be at the same time as this video. And today we're just going to be going through this video, and you guys can watch it as like I talk along. But I do want to kind of explain a few points, as in like why we got beat so hard, as well as like just so you guys can probably learn from this and maybe even improve and, you know, do better yourself, right? So you can kind of plan off like just my loss or just, you know, my wins, whatever it might be. And I also want to say what we made mistakes doing. So first off, I'm going to be talking about the mistakes we made, and then I'm going to hop into like all the just the facts and stuff. So first off, I do want to say, you know, when it comes to we aren't like the best in some areas, and one of them really being like off the bat, we were really bad at taking these buildings like really fast. And you guys might have noticed, but Pickle actually managed to take our one of our structures before we even got into it, and then like we basically had to swarm it. And that actually is like really bad because Pickle of course has tier 6 and his gear is really good, and you know, it just means like it's gonna be hard for us to, you know, because honestly, one of my biggest concerns going in was actually Pickle, because if this dude was, you know, going, let's say, left side, I'd have to send a team of accounts just to handle Pickle, and if he went right side, I have to send in accounts, you know, just to handle him. Luckily, I don't think I saw the other tier 6 guy, but I was actually more worried about them than the rest of their alliance, because, you know, if he was playing, like, for example, I thought maybe he would, you know, target people on helipads, try to get them out of commission earlier out. Of course, I was wrong about that assumption. I also thought possibly, you know, he might just, you know, and the thing is, I came up with multiple, like, different thoughts on what he might do and how I would probably have to handle that. And, you know, generally, I was thinking that he might, you know, either reinforce or, you know, garrison certain buildings, then you might send other marches to run, like, rampant. And I was thinking that I would actually try to hold him down with, like, a few accounts, just because, you know, tier 6 are extremely powerful. So, honestly, that was just one of just something, right? Second, our team is actually really bad when it comes to, for example, zombie farming, incubator, that kind of stuff. And I do want to say, like, you know, a lot of points that came from this actually came from that, right? So, for example, incubator, 10k of HOTS points came from that. I think like 14k or something came from zombies, and we had made very little zombie points and 0 incubator points, meaning that we actually have to be better at having a team going after, you know, zombies. Like, I might need to separate one of my accounts off to the side and actually just farm zombies with it instead of fighting with all 6 of my, or 7 of my accounts, right? Incubator, it'd be actually harder if it's in a situation like this where we're kind of focused on these buildings. And honestly, I did make a lot of mistakes, and I'll try to talk about that as I go on. But I also want to mention, you know, why they won. So I'll go over that guy. Alright guys, and this is the last thing that I want to mention when talking about the mistakes that we made. So I actually want to say that, for example, we have an R4 Charger, and this dude has messed up multiple times. I'm actually thinking I might need to demote him because of this, but basically we'll register for Pompeii, and he registers people that he knows won't show up, or he himself messaged me and told me he cannot show up for the Pompeii, and this dude registered himself. And one big problem is this dude himself is like 100 to 200 million, which it's like, I'm guessing like 120 million or something, right? Combat rating, which is just crazy because, for example, we were at, I think, 2 billion combat rating almost, and we were fighting a 2.4 billion combat rating. The point is, like, basically, we wouldn't have had to take on HOT. And I mean, to be honest, you know, like, we just, like, lacked a lot of numbers. It was, like, 27 people versus 39, and then only a certain percent of those did actually show up because, you know, this dude keeps registering people. And I just, you know, I think I just have to do a better job at actually making sure, like, people who are showing up are being registered. And I try to do a good job on that, but it's really annoying when R4 step in and actually just start, like, for example, he registered like 2 of the other R4s that weren't going to be able to show up last time, and then we almost had like, I think like 300, 400 million more combat rating just because of that. And it's just really stupid, and it's a mistake we have to fix. I also am now going to hop into kind of why we lost so badly. Like, in general, it's very likely or possible that we would have lost, but I do want to say that a huge reason we actually lost this is because of Pickle. And I don't try to say it as if the alliance is bad themselves, so don't take it as that. But in general, you got to understand that Pickle is extremely strong, and his technology is just beyond me, right? Like, his technology is insane. He has tier 6, he has insane gear, the parts on the gear, you know, like the percents that he's able to put out when like being garrison captain is massive. Like as long as he has a team that is able to back him and reinforce his structures, it'll be extremely hard. I also want to mention that I did a bad job in a sense, because I will say that I wasn't rallying as much as I could have been, though I will also say that even if I was rallying, the trades that we would have gotten on these structures wouldn't have been as favorable, and I'm assuming that these guys would have done a better job at reinforcing them anyways, because I mean, like, the technology difference between us, although I am close to tier 6, you guys might not, or might know, I don't have tier 6. Yeah, I mean, I am not really a spender, and you guys got to understand that is, like, you know, a big issue for me to actually reach it, and I had to spend, you know, a while grinding to actually get super close, which I will say I am extremely close to tier 6, or at least unlocking one of them. So yeah, though I will say, if you guys didn't see that little clip where the helipad was being taken, I guess Pickle slipped in and took the helipad, and I actually had forced a ton of like marches over there to try to knock him out before he took it, and basically he ended up porting in. I actually was worried that he would start burning my accounts out, and I think he tried, but then he noticed like he was losing on one of my accounts, and he just basically would keep sending that march to attack one the outpost or whatever. But you guys kind of get the point. And one of the big issues was like, I mean, I can't boot the dude, he's too strong, right? Like, I can't just burn his base down. I'm already losing trades. So for example, I was holding an outpost, and I was already losing trades with like a million tier 5, right? I was just holding that mess. It was of course infantry, like I had my Tom and everything, and I feel like that march is generally pretty decent and pretty strong, but I was still losing like my trades on it, which was just, you know, it's just crazy to me, but it's just how it is. And this dude would just keep hopping in it, and it was a really big problem for me. And honestly, what I probably should have been doing better was maybe going for, you know, things that he wasn't holding, because this dude was holding I think he was holding 4 of the outer outposts, and then he was holding 1 just, you know, minor outpost, and this actually just like cuts off so many points that we can possibly get, especially if he just instantly goes back and hops right into it, you know. And I kind of wanted to just talk about that, because I wanted to explain that core players are super necessary, right? Because if you like look at his lines, and I don't want to say as if they're weak, but for example, other than the other tier 6 player, I think the next strongest was around 50 million. And if you count like Pickle out of this, and then maybe the other guy, basically these guys are the reasons that I had to change up the whole strategy or game plan that I could have been going with. For example, if it was a bunch of people more our size, or, you know, weaker, and I didn't have like to worry about tier 6 players actually being included, I could have played completely different, being like maybe more defensive, or I could have just ran through the buildings, because anytime it's not Pickle in a structure, I can usually swarm it down really well, and it's pretty easy, right? Even if it's like one of their 50 mil dudes, I generally think I have better tech on my accounts, and it just makes it really easy for me to swarm it down, or at least I'm getting decent trades. Whereas if it's Pickle, of course, you know, like I said, I could have been rallying and stuff, but if I'm swarming it and stuff, I'm also just taking really bad trades. I can have 30 marches swarming the same thing. He can have only maybe 1 million troops, and they can even be mixed. He can have like a ranged squad holding it, and the troops in it could be mixed, and I'm still going to be taking really bad trades. 1, because he has tier 6 in there, and 2, just like his technology, even the reinforcements are just taking like this huge buff, you know. And that's also to say, for example, like an island raid, like even though like you know, one big player can't solo he can't solo like Pompeii or anything, they will have like a huge impact, you know. So like, you guys really got to understand and actually take note about your core players. And if you're fighting an enemy that's like got players that are just way stronger than your core players, and of course, you know, you could have numbers, you could maybe have like 20-30 mil players, and you yourself maybe have a really strong, like, I don't know, 100 mil, and then you have a bunch of like 20 mils or 30 mils, and it's not as much as theirs. But basically the point is, like, it's going to be so hard to take their structures as long as they're able to keep troops coming in there. They have a good garrison captain. And that's what I talked about in another video when I'm talking about strategy. As long as you have like a really good garrison captain just holding this, their technology is going to be playing to all the troops that are going in there. And it just makes it really hard to actually do anything. Like, I don't like to, you know, I want to say, like, of course my ults aren't weak, and I don't want to sound like, you know, I'm just bragging about them, but they all do have tier 5. All the ones that I have registered in here, of course, one of them actually doesn't have range and rider tier 5, but even then, you know, I have an insane amount of tier 5, which is just, you know, just the point, right? And I can swarm this thing down. I have good technology, all of that, and I'm still taking just terrible trades. Like it's disgusting. I also want to say, in case you guys don't notice, you guys can usually see how good the trades or how bad they are based on the white numbers on the screen. So for example, you might see for example, I'm swarming this thing and you might see like them lose 5k troops, right? But if you see all like 10 of my marches losing 1,000 troops each, basically I'm taking bad trades, and that means he's gonna be taking 2-for-1 trades against every one of these marches, for just an example, right? So in general, you guys can look at these white numbers as well as I think these red numbers, right? And that's basically like skill damage and all that, but you can basically just see like just how good or bad trades are going, and that's generally the point. But usually I'm going to be on the rear end of these trades, right? Like especially with Pickle. And at the very end, I think you guys are going to notice that although we took so it gives a report about how many like injuries are on both sides and stuff, but basically you guys will be able to look at that and you can see although the injuries were kind of evened out on each side, the reason this actually was because I swarmed these things so much, and it just like made for such bad trades. And it's also, I also want to mention that although I'm able to like swarm these things down, you also got to note that I have other members that are fighting in other parts of the map, and they're not able to take these outposts. They don't have groups of, just a strong group of players to be able to swarm down things, and it's just not easy, Of course, like I said earlier, you can't do this solo, but this does rely a lot on having a strong player. And I will also give a comparison. So I was talking to someone, and basically D&T fought NWO. And if you guys don't know, D&T is a 4 billion alliance, as well as NWO, which is a 5 billion alliance. And they're typically stronger, right? Like they're typically just a stronger, players. They have a stronger group. They're a lot older region, of course. And D&T managed to win. And one big problem was that they didn't have anybody really strong trying to hold garrisons, whereas D&T was able to, kind of split off their strong players, where maybe one strong person was holding these garrisons, and then another of their strong guys were kind of running havoc in their back lines. And that's kind of the point here, that you really need somebody to actually hold these garrisons properly. Like, you want your stronger person to hold it, or one of your strongest. And this is like saying that, your enemies like either on your level or they are a threat to you, right? Because if they didn't have Pickle, I don't want to sound like I'm cocky or anything, but I do think that we probably could have won this. And, there's always a chance that we would have lost, of course. And I mean, it's possible, right? But there was like without Pickle, there was like so much bigger of a chance that we would have won this, because I mean, like, his tier 6 research was just insane for holding these structures. And the fact that he was like able to make such a presence on the battlefield, he forced me to change up how I played in general. And that's just kind of the point of like me explaining this, right? Like, where although people don't like to, I don't know, I feel like core players are really huge. So me myself, if like I'm fighting an enemy like this, it would have been good for me to maybe play more defensive. But when you consider Pickle, I decided that it would have been really hard for me to even play defensive, because one, if he launched rallies, even if he's like solo swarming or just solo marching something, it's just like I'll be taking really bad trades, and it's just really hard. It's just really hard to decide how to go about like fighting a player like this and how to hold them down, honestly. Like, this is probably the best strategy that he could have gone with, instead of like targeting bases, maybe cutting off what troops we could have been sending, just playing defensive, right? Like, that is what I've talked about. And I actually wanted to try with PLW, and I do want to say, like, I enjoy my battles with PLW, and they make me like think quite a bit, because they're always pretty close. But basically, it's just really hard to counter somebody who's this strong. And if you don't have somebody on their strength level, you are just at a disadvantage, and you got to just come up with something better to kind of counter that, I do want to say GG to Hot, because I know I do mention like Pickle himself a lot, but of course this wouldn't have been possible without his members, and they did do an amazing job at, keeping stuff full, making sure that they're reinforcing just constantly, right? And I just wanted to say that, because bravo to these guys. They did an amazing job, and I had fun, and it was pretty difficult and tough for me. So I don't want to sound like I'm just like talking down on their alliance. They are a pretty good group of members. It's not like they're weak either. But I was just saying in general, Pickle is a freaking monster, and you usually want to play around your core members. And this is to be said about any alliance that is going in a, you know, Pompeii or even Coco Island or just fighting in general. You got to remember that your garrison captains need to be these monster players, and you got to play around them because they will make or break your team. You know, they will make or break just how your strategy or how you play, you know. Like, I feel like that is so massive. And, you know, actually knowing who's going to be holding these structures. Also, just having teams that are able to farm zombies, able to gather, able to go for the incubator, that is actually massive. And, you know, we lack that a lot, and we lack coordination, and it's sometimes hard. And I actually do want to say, like, for example, you might want to have an R4 who's able to put down tags and kind of coordinate your alliance members around, you know. And although we don't really have that right now, I've been thinking about trying to find somebody else or somebody new who is able to, you know, coordinate members, put down pings and all that. And I put down pings only for myself. It's hard for me to check alliance chat and stuff when I'm controlling 7 accounts and trying to do my best. And I mean, of course, like, I can always look back at what I've done and be like, oh, it would have been smarter for me to rally. It would have been smarter for me to do this. But of course, like, I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses for myself, but I am controlling a lot of accounts, and it makes it hard for me to use my brain like 100% during these, you know, situations. And I just have to slow myself down sometimes if I really want to use, you know, just think properly. It's just hard. I will say that since Pickle already had 5 marches out, it would have been really imperative or just smart of me to actually put my main account, or even some of my stronger alternate accounts as garrison captains, and try to reinforce these other structures, because it either would have forced Pickle to pull out, or it would have forced their, you know, teams to kind of try to focus and rally these. And honestly, we could have had better point trades if I had done a better job at that. But of course, you know, there was no way to win doing that. But like I said, you know, we would have had better point trades, but we still probably would have lost if we hadn't, like, put any focus in any of these structures. Because obviously, if you guys don't know, operation bases earn more points than the ones behind them, and that's like the first building that you can capture whenever you come out. And Pickle was holding 4 of them, as well as an extra, you know, just base somewhere off to the side. And that was just, I mean, that's just him holding the main majority of the group. So I kind of wanted to just state that and mention that when talking about it. But yeah, it was rough, and I did enjoy myself. So, I mean, I hope you guys learned something out of this. You know, I hope you guys can kind of strategize around just what I talk about, you know, what mistakes we're making. And I hope that you guys are just able to outdo me. You know, you guys can fight me one day, and that would be awesome, and I will enjoy it, and you guys can watch yourself on YouTube. But yeah, there's 4 or 5 minutes left. I'm actually struggling now to find words or stuff to talk about, but I mean, you guys can also just look at this right here. Even with like it in the reds and him having like low troops, you guys see just how bad the trades are for me, right? Like, I'm losing the trades no matter what. Every time I fight Pickle, every time I try to fight his structures, I'm going to lose these trades. And it's just as simple as that. It's a matter of technology. And it's not even tier 6 itself, right? It's the fact that he has the research maxed out. Whereas, like, for example, I might have my infantry tree at 10, 10, 10. Because, of course, that's what you need to unlock, like, into the later research. And, of course, I finally maxed out my later research tree, which I do want to say I'm on my way to tier 6. I think at least in a month or 2 I will have it. But basically, he has all these maxed out at 15, and that does so much, you know, like, it does way more than you think. And I do want to say I am focusing range before I'm focusing my infantry. So it doesn't help that my range tree is actually better than my infantry, and I tend to defend more with an infantry march. So it is a little disadvantageous for me, especially being that a lot of my accounts are infantry focused, meaning that if I'm rallying and stuff, I'm actually going to have to train more, you know, range on these accounts to kind of fill rallies than I would like. It's just the whole thing. It's a whole process. I will say I also started running out of troops near the end. Like, I started closing accounts because I was like, dude, I am out, you know. I've just gotten freaking burnt, and I cannot keep it up. I had like 2 accounts in the bottom left too that actually got burnt off helipad, and I never noticed it until I was too late. And then I just like sent their march just to fight some people, because I actually didn't get them in the helipad near me, because Pickle took the helipad before I could port in all my accounts, which was a little sucky because that meant like less of a fighting force up here. But honestly, with how well they were defending, there wasn't much I could have done, and this was honestly a big L. Honestly, we wouldn't have even fought hot if Charger didn't register himself. Like, that actually kind of ticks me off, you know. Like, And I don't want to make it sound like an excuse, but dude, we would have fought a way easier enemy, or at least one more on our level, you know? Like, I can't really do much against tier 6. Or, like, as long as they reinforce these structures, because like I said, you know, if he had fought in the field a lot more, this would have been way more winnable, because I could have avoided him with, like, half my accounts, maybe split my accounts into 2 groups, which is actually what I tried doing in the beginning, if you guys didn't notice. But Pickle basically just took these buildings and didn't care. You know, he did not care about, like, anything I was doing. He was just doing his thing. And I mean, it was just the L. We just took the L, honestly. It was a big L slapped in my forehead. And what can you do? But I mean, I hope you guys enjoy this. I try to be a little bit entertaining, but I know I sound a bit goofy. Also, I will be trying to do some Coco Island videos, so I hope you guys are looking forward to that. And I will I'm thinking about it, but I might try to stream some island raids, some Coco Island, whatever you want to call it. That might be pretty interesting. I don't know if I'm going to do it yet. I have to check and see, like, how streams might work or just how to run it. But, I mean, if that's something you're into, it's something to look forward to. And I do thank you guys. You know, I thank you guys for constantly coming back to my videos, because it does make my day. And I'm glad that you guys are anticipating them. You know, like, you guys are actually excited to watch them come out. That's just pretty cool. And it's just nice to know. And this is at the end of the video, basically. We're just going to look at, like, the statistics of the battle. And this is going to be over. But yeah, you see Master Pickle with 300k points. And you can kind of see the just point ratio here. So this is just to show you guys, but I hope you guys have an amazing day or night, and I thank you guys for watching this and just bearing with me. Peace out.